Hey everybody, Dave Neal here, stand-up comedian and host of Bachelorette Recap, a Guy's Review. If you've been following along on the Colton Underwood, Cassie Randolph situation, I've been kind of reporting with all of the whereabouts of court dates and this and that. If you haven't, Cassie Randolph filed for a temporary restraining order on September 11th. Here are the court documents. She requested a domestic violence restraining order in the Los Angeles Superior Court of California. And the actual tomorrow, October 6th, will be the day in court in which Colton Underwood can either defend himself or not. So we won't really know. There hasn't been anything that's happened in the last month. But what happens with the temporary restraining order is Cassie Randolph petitioned. She filed for one. And then after that, the judge looked at the evidence and said, okay, you can get a temporary restraining order, which basically means Colton can't go within 100 yards of her house, her car, her workplace, and he can't contact her directly or indirectly or on social media. And the reason that she got this temporary restraining order is, of course, because she found a tracking device taped underneath the trunk of her car. This was reported by TMZ last month. And she hired a private investigator to find out who was sending her harassing text messages. Lo and behold, apparently, allegedly, Colton had admitted to her to being the one who made up a phone number and was sending her and himself messages from this fake stalker, which turned out to be him. So because of those reasons, she wanted to make sure he was nowhere near her. Now, what happens a lot is that people file for a restraining order and then they drop the charges because they don't want to have to see their abuser in court. Maybe they feel bad. A lot of times family gets involved and says, oh, come on, they were, it wasn't a big deal, et cetera, et cetera. In this case, you've got what I would estimate to be about 95% of Bachelor Nation supporting Cassie Randolph and about 5% supporting Colton, and including, thinking that I'm going too hard on him and that it was just love. He wanted answers, this and that. Look, you don't stalk somebody for love. That's not love, okay? That's manipulation, possessiveness, and a lot of other things. So in some previous videos, I talked about toxic love addiction. We talked about purity and when you lose your virginity, how sometimes you can be see other people as your property and possessive, and that's never good. It's a lot of things that lead to domestic violence. I made the comparison to O.J. Simpson. Some people didn't like that, but O.J. Simpson started as a possessive guy who played football, probably got hit in the head too many times, and allegedly murdered two people. So you hate to bring up the examples where it goes that far, but they say you have a better chance at being murdered by somebody you know than somebody you don't know. And you're actually safer with a stranger than a guy that you know. These are the facts. This is where we are. So we're just talking about it. So anyway, she filed on September 11th and it was granted. And the Superior Court of California, Los Angeles, 111 North Hill Street, just down the road from here is where this will all be taking place. So I wanted to let you guys know exactly what can happen tomorrow. So this is basically all of the options for tomorrow. I pulled up this law group here. They have an article called What Happens at a Restraining Order Hearing in Los Angeles County. And by the way, the other thing is when you have a temporary restraining order put against you, you can't buy a firearm. That's another thing. They really just want to protect the victim. I say victim with quotation marks because the other party does have a chance to defend themselves. Now, I would be obviously very rare that somebody would lie in a restraining order, but people have said, well, what if Cassie was lying? That could have happened. And here's what happens. If you lie about a material fact in a restraining order case, that is one likely to influence a judge, you're vulnerable to prosecution by the county district attorney for felony perjury. You may also be prosecuted in civil court, which is sued by the person you lie about for defamation, false light, or fraud. So, if Cassie's lying, if she made this up, if she really fabricated the evidence for all the people that think she might be lying, she would be guilty of perjury and can be sued for defamation, which is a big deal because if she were lying, this really, really hurts Colton's career. Now, I would not bet that that's the case. That's a stretch. So, what happens at a restraining order hearing in LA? So if you were served with a restraining order, it's filed against you in LA County, what now? It varies from court to court, but mainly here are the steps and procedures California courts follow when restraining orders are filed. By the time you receive the restraining order hearing, the other party requested the restraining order has already filed for and received a temporary restraining order against you. So by the time Colton found out he had a restraining order against him, a temporary restraining order, TRO, she had already filed it. In this case, TMZ broke the news before it was granted by the judge, so I'm sure he found out that way. But this system is built to protect protect the person who is being stalked, harassed, or, violence perpetrated against them. You don't want the aggressor to know that you're going to go file a restraining order. The court is built to help Cassie in this case. So the temporary order typically includes these terms: ordering you to stay away from the home, work, or school of the protected person, ordering you to cease contact with the protected person, which includes letters, phone calls, emails, texts, or any other types of communication, prohibiting you from owning, possessing, or purchasing a firearm or gun while the order is in effect. You may and should file a restraining. You may or should file a response to the restraining order petition stating your defenses. You have the right to attend the final restraining order hearing to defend yourself against the other party's allegations before a final restraining order can be issued against you. Now, assuming Cassie shows up to the restraining order hearing tomorrow, with no legal knowledge whatsoever, so don't take this advice, this is my opinion, I think Colton, assuming his guilt, best case scenario for him, he shouldn't show up. And if you don't show up, that can the judge basically sides with whoever it was that filed the restraining order. Because what are you going to argue that you only were tracking her car to find out when she was going to Chick-fil-A? You know what I mean? What good can come from him? Although I'll say this, I want him to speak. I want him to admit to it. I want him to own up to all of it, and so he can move on with his life, and we can, because God knows we need to. At the hearing, the judge will hear testimony from both parties and possibly any witnesses. The judge may then grant the restraining order requested, grant some of the protections requested, but not all, deny issuing a restraining order entirely, postpone the case, and reschedule a new court date if you need more time to retain an attorney or prepare an answer. The judge requests more information. Your hearing has continued longer than planned. If the judge postpones your case, he or she may decide to continue any temporary restraining orders until the next hearing date. Typically, when a restraining order is filed against you, there's also a related criminal proceeding stemming from allegations of abuse, stalking, or harassment. This is interesting. So, assuming he does admit to tracking her, which I think he should, just admit to it. Everything's going to be out in the open. It's pretty well known that this was you. Unless, of course, he's innocent. In which case, I would sue her for defamation if it wasn't you. But assuming that she has the evidence that proves that it was Colton who planted the tracking device, I think he should admit to it. But if he admits to it, then she could probably, I don't know what the case would be, but I'm sure planting a tracking device on someone's car is not legal. And in that case, then he could be at fault. I don't know if he would serve any jail time, but I think, not to speak for Cassie, but I think she just wants him to stay away from her. I don't think she wants him to do any time or this or that. But anyway, so it could be postponed. I think what's going to happen is, this is my only guess, is that tomorrow she's going to go to court and he's not going to show up. And then the judge can grant her between 1 and 5 years of a permanent restraining order. So depending on how egregious the judge, or how much of a threat the judge thinks that Colton Underwood is, would determine how long of a restraining order he lays down on Colton. We'll have to see what happens. But again, I don't think Colton's going to show up. If he does, he's going to have a lot of questions he's going to need to answer to. If he admits to it all, he might be liable to being prosecuted for some of that. Again, that's above my pay grade. Leave a comment below. Let me know, and hit the subscribe button. As soon as the information comes out from what happens tomorrow, I'll post a video about it all. I think the one thing that we can learn from all this is that if you do have somebody in your life that is possessive, that is not giving you the space that you need, and you feel threatened in any way whatsoever, there are channels that you can take to have, where the court wants to protect you. Too many people. I mean, geez, you look at this Chris Watts. Is that his name, Chris Watts? This Netflix special. The guy's married. He murders his 2 kids and his wife. It's like, look, not everybody's sane. Possessiveness, toxic love addiction, whatever it may be. So, bipolar disorder. Again, I'm a comic. I don't have any degrees. I can't offer any therapy, but it is important to recognize when somebody's not giving you the freedoms you are entitled to. So leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. And there might be, my guess is that, these things, there can be a lot of hype leading up to them, and then the judge just postpones it another month. I think if the judge postpones the hearing, that the temporary restraining order will just last until the hearing finally happens. But I'll put money on the fact that Colton doesn't show up. We don't get any answers that we need. He puts it in the next chapter of his book. I'd like to see what he has to say, in the court. I think that's the only honest way we're going to get an answer. But I don't know. We'll see. Leave a comment, hit the like button, subscribe. See you next time. Bye, everyone.